Excited for this one today. We're going to bring you weekly, quarterly, and monthly review. As a whole, I'm only going to go through the weekly. I want to look at the higher time frames after I've reviewed the week. But I want to discuss the overall results for this period. Starting off with FTMO. Funded accounts actually down 1%. I took one loss this week. One trade I'm currently still in, so we'll see what that does. I'll show you guys it's around break even to finish the week. Not really liking the way it's looking, but we'll go through that. And then obviously phase one. This sums up my quarter, to be honest. If I was to talk about quarterly results, I started this FTMO challenge at the end of June, and this is where I've seen so many videos. 8 months into my phase one, still not passed it and not failed one. I've got mixed feelings about it. I like the guys that are doing it. I respect them. Do you know what? I prefer that than the scammers out there that are proposing that you can make X amount in a week. Also, like the fact that they're being transparent. It's great. Obviously, I don't want to sit here and talk about this account for 3 months. What I will say is that it's been a rocky one. I haven't really made profit this quarter overall, sitting around break even. And as for me being new to this strategy, I don't know whether that's a thing that's going to occur. Obviously, I've made a lot of mistakes. It's the first quarter I've properly traded this strategy. But it's good to see I'm not blowing funded accounts. The consistency score is pretty high. And I did go into nearly 8% drawdown on it. And I'm now bracket break even. So there's some positives to take from it. You can see all my results here. And I'm here to show the journey. It's not always going to be pretty. It never is. But it's for me to look back on and to really understand where my psychology changes throughout periods. And also for you guys as well to see this is what it really is like. I've been trading for years and it's still taking some time, but I'm enjoying it and it's what I want to do as a career. So I'm not going to stop doing that right now. I'm going to keep going and keep pushing. I can see myself in a decade still trading. Obviously some sort of confirmation bias could be there, but I would look to still continue to trade for the foreseeable future. I love it. It's a part of my routine and I've been used to it since I was 18 and now I'm nearly 25 going on next year. So let's see what it brings. As for everything else, if we go through my tracker, currently really trying to understand where I've gone wrong because this month I've had a profitable month. We're up 4.5. Whether we win this trade or not, I'm not really going to count that. But 2 wins, 2 losses, 50% win rate. It's better than what I've had in these 2 months here, and I think you can see that. It was drawdown. It's been rough, but then I can take a lot of positives from this month. However, I've just gone through are the trades counter trend. I do think there's a part of me that likes to trade it because I think I can catch a move before the trend move. And there hasn't been many trend options for me, the way I trade. As a result, I've just realised that I've made no profit trading counter ever since May. And that sucks, especially when 3 out of the 5 months have been profitable. And then you haven't made money overall trading counter trend. It makes me realise, should I be trading it? And it's what I'm going to talk about mainly throughout this weekly review because it's what I ended up doing for the week. It's what I took. So yeah, you can see the results there. I'm being fully transparent. Obviously, they reflect everything if you go through all the weeks. Obviously, I don't show you my entries on the MetaTrader, but I wouldn't lie. I'm being 100% transparent. So let's go to the weekly and let's go to how we're looking on DXY to start with. If we're looking on the higher time frames on the weekly coming into this week, I think we obviously have seen this week now. Weekly's tough. What I really look at is, okay, this area doesn't like to be broken. You can see that within the 100 and 101. We've been in this area. I don't want to lie to myself and say that we haven't seen continued breaks of lows because we have. But after we've seen them, we saw this here with a double wick rejection to the size of the body. And that's somewhat significant. If we're not able to continue down and break this 100, I still didn't have that bias for downside on DXY. Maybe should have a little bit more down to fundamentals being a bit weak. But definitely a massive bias I had in here for DXY coming up. And I've spoken about it for months now. I know I wanted to see downside to this area. And then I wanted to see a correction because there's no significant liquidity generated. Is this fill partially into 20% of this fair value gap going to be enough to take us down, break down? Well, yet to be seen. I think a big thing's NFP coming in next week. We're going to see if we're going to get that decisiveness because Fed rate couldn't bring it. And I think maybe there's something underlying that the USD aren't bringing out, which I'd reckon I need to get onto a bit more. So weekly time frame, not really getting too much. Then move on to the daily. What we can see is, I think, looking back, it's kind of clear that we pushed down, we pulled back, broke this lower high and broke this lower high. We then created a new high. We failed to take out the low, and then we pulled back into this order block and then took out the low. At that stage, we kind of are bearish. But then again, I had that bias of, okay, we made a wick on the daily, failed to take out 100. We failed to take out the low. We then pulled back up into this area, into this key level, and then we failed to make a further low. Therefore, my bias was significantly more, are we going to get liquidity before we come down? Maybe I was looking at this previous weekly high / liquidity. Can we get us to come up? Of course, there now you've got equal highs on the daily as well. So I was looking at these. A lot of things to say that maybe we could come up. No daily confirmation candles, and it kind of hurts me to say because after Monday I took a trade, which I kind of regret in a way now. Feel like I was just seeing things that weren't really there. And maybe part of that has to play with the fact that I've got a funded account now. I can't say 100% if that is the case, but I know to some degree. Sometimes you take trades that don't really exist, and maybe that's just down to certain factors you've got to figure out. We do know, though, on the daily time frame, that we're seeing that this fair value gap I've spoken about in previous weeks is still getting respected. Every single day last week, coming into this week, you can see, come into this area, you've got 5 wicks and not breaking. Partly as well had to play with the bias there. So I'm looking for a daily confirm to come and take out this wick before we potentially come down. That is heavily against the overall direction of DXY. That has been bearish since the start of the quarter, really. Let's just say that. If we go into EU to start the week, there's not really too much to it. It's very bullish. You have this high here, which is the current yearly high, that we know that if we have weekly confirmations that we're going to take that out. And I just made a massive error, to be honest. If this is the fair value gap that we pull back into, and we saw that we made a high, we didn't fail anywhere to the weekly, to the left, didn't come into this wick, not even got there yet. We've then pulled back into this area. We've then created a weak rejection bearish candle. Next candle's closed strong bullish, broken the high, engulfed. Still, the next week has range to continue up and take out the high for the current year. That's the easy analysis. If you see, what you see is that. What I was thinking is trying to be clever and thinking that, is this going up? Because you look at the daily time frame. You can easily get caught out in these ideas, but you got to understand the weekly overrides the daily in almost every circumstance. That, okay, this is an order block. Is it a good order block? Yeah, it's decent because it made a low after we had a big move up. But what it didn't do was, probably the most important thing from this area, is we never actually continued down. We just come into this weekly POI, which was important because then it could probably clear that high. Overlooking that, we could see that what did Wednesday do? Wicked into this area, closed bullish still. Is it a rejection? I've deemed it to be at the time. 2 candles here starting to close in this daily order block. Let's get that. Therefore, my assumption was that we're going to break up, maybe fail, and then see downside. Where's the downside to? Previous weekly low, which was this wick. This wick, if it fails to make a new high, could be liquidity. But it's tough when it's counter like that and the fundamentals aren't aligning. So that was my idea for the week. And then GU, I'm not going to talk about GU too much this week. Really was untradeable from the perspective of, okay, we're at a new high. The imbalance feels so low. Therefore, I'm bullish until otherwise. The next weekly area, because we just broke this area here, is all the way up here. So I'm not really interested for another 150 pips. As for you though, if you're going to look at the bullish bias and you're saying, okay, where could you have caught your buy from? The way I trade is I'd look onto the daily, off a weekly confirmation. And where my personal bias kind of didn't align with the weekly confirmation was I would have traded off 50% of this wick as an entry point. Stops below the wick, expecting that low to be respected. So let's just say 30 to be giving it a bit of space, targeting the high. 3.6R. That was the move for the week. Playing with the trend. Simple as that. Did it align with DXY the best? Probably not. But sometimes it's just so clear. You can see what EU's doing. It's bullish. I've then not took this based on the fact that this wick could be taken out. I just think there was just too much overthinking of it. Monday comes in, closes bearish. We see DXY on Monday close bullish. Now, typical, isn't it, really? I don't trade any EU during this period on DXY. We had about 10 taps into this low without breaking. The day that I take a sell on EU, this is a Monday close, and I've given that a confirmation as a buy. Looking back, it's silly because it had a bigger wick than the body. I didn't discuss that enough. I know it's more down to points on DXY, but you would look at that and say equivalent to 27 pips and a 20 pip body. Bigger wick than the body. Does it show rejection? Well, it doesn't have a rejection wick to the downside, so potentially is struggling in this area here. Within this area here, this is what I had up, because that candle clearly failed at it. There was nowhere else that it struggled at on the daily time frame. Therefore, shouldn't have been taking an option there for sales in EU. What was wrong with EU then? Because if that candle closed bearish, that candle never rejected the upside. It just come down. It started the week down. Is that the bottom wick for the week? Ended up looking like it was. I think it was just silly. It was just getting into a better premium area to see these overall highs get taken out. That's where I should have been getting in for a buy. If you just look at that, it's the clear and obvious thing. I've looked for a sell. So how have I caught this sell and took an L on it? If we go on to the 1, we've looked at this and we can see that we've had an Asian range forming here. I've looked at, this is a 1 hour / 30 minute. I think I used a 30 minute and I said, right, this is my high to low. This is an inducement. Why is it an inducement? Because we come into the golden area and then we failed to make a new low. Therefore, I want to see price come above that. So I've got an entry at the inducement and I've got a stop loss just below the leg high, was 20 pips. And then obviously you've got that daily in there. But I was looking at the liquidity play. So definitely a good example of getting caught out trying to trade counter in the trend. That really you're making up trades that don't exist. And you can see that it didn't run any profit. When you look at the way price is moving, I'm getting better at this as I see more and more how my strategy works, is that if you look at the intention of price here, very strong, took out this high. Obviously, this was good intention as well, but this was down to news that come in on the Monday morning there with PMI, manufacturing and services. This was not showing intention. What I like to see once I get tagged in on a sell limit, intention, taking out the leg, taking out the Asian range. Just triggered down very slowly for about 20 pips and then reversed, took me out. Silly trade, should have been a buy. That's the lesson learned there, to be honest. And then we took out the high. Obviously, after we saw a bullish candle. And at that point on Tuesday, you break the 100. Typical. I'm so patient with the way I trade. The one day I trade, it breaks through. Couldn't write it. Is what it is. And then the Wednesday, we took out the high and then closed bearish. And this is where my second trade come in. I felt like I kind of got married to the whole idea. And I want to discuss this because obviously I'm still in this trade. I'm not too sure if it was a valid option, to be real. We did a fake out this 100 level. We closed bullish after failing to take out the low. And then I was like, okay, cool. We failed to take out the low. We're going to come for maybe more some internal. Hard to say that that's actually internal now, but you could still take out the current weekly high. So the options were there for that. On EU, where again I've just got that bias and I've kind of married myself to the idea, still a liquidity point, but once you realise that this wick down got respected and took out the high, I don't know as much now if that's a liquidity point to gather more liquidity to what? The high's already been taken out. The high's been formed. At this point, this candle closed bearish. Strong candle, rejection wick to the upside, still failing at this order block. This is the order block that I probably haven't spoke about enough. is the main reason why I took trades on EU this week. And then, okay, what's wrong with this trade on the daily time frame? Keep it as simple as possible. Previous daily lows not taken out, haven't engulfed the body. There you go. There's just certain things wrong with that trade there that I would just love to go back and maybe analyse. This is the first time I've gone through it since. And off of this, I've decided, you know what? This is a confirmed day. DXY's done this. But what hasn't it done? Formed a high, formed the lower high. Obviously made a new low, formed another lower high in here. Still not engulfed the body, still not broken the high. The lower highs are getting respected. And what they are doing now is they're making new lows. So we're bearish. We're bearish on DXY. Yes, it's very rangy, but the trend is still showing that we're going down. Therefore, I've marked up for this day. Going into, see this Wednesday play out. Give us that drop. I've looked for a trade off this 1 hour fair value gap low. We'll put that in. And I've looked for a sell off it. Stops have gone above the overall high because there's POIs in this area that I don't really want to see us come into, but I know that there's a chance for that to happen. It's only about 2.5 hours. So I got triggered in. And obviously with DXY. Wanted, really after a fake out this 100 level, this next candle's got to go up. And what did it do? Thursday closed bearish with no wick to the upside. It's just trash. Really not good. EU ran a little bit of profit on Friday morning, yesterday morning, and then we reversed. We come up with USD news and then we come back down and finish the week just a little bit in profit. I'm up probably up 0.2R, 0.3R. I'm not really happy with the trade. Especially because, look, let's be real. At that point, we should be taking out the lows of the current, at least the current day, which we did. And then we reversed and made a new high for the day, and then we've come down. But we haven't managed later in the day, London closed on Friday, to take out this area here. Which we obviously had struggles at the previous session in London. And I just think at this point, 2 days in a trade and we're bullish, we're going against the trend. Am I just better off closing this out? And obviously I've just said I've analysed the counter trades. I've not made profit trading counter trade. Many of you guys probably in the same boat. You think you can trade counter. I know other traders that are in my group. They have massive problems. Some of them profitable traders. And they literally have done the same thing I've done. And it just eats away at your profit. You're better off trading with the trend. And there's a transparency that it happens. I've definitely caught a loss this week and maybe 2 from counter if I don't decide to close out. Yes, this trade could run from this point, but what happened on DXY on Friday? We just made a new low. Still respecting lower highs. We're still going down. We're making new lows. I think a problem that you've got now is, was it Tuesday? We broke the daily order block that we held for like 10 days. After that, this is the weekly order block you've got here. Finally been broken. All I can say is my daily and weekly biases of them areas being respected have now been broken. Probably at this stage, from me analysing it now, I'm going to call it quits and get out of this trade around break even and just call it a month. And with that month being nearly 5, it probably will end up being 5 hour profit. Very, very grateful for it, but definitely don't want to be taking counter trend trades into the last quarter. Maybe I'll just try that out in the last quarter. Don't take any counter trend. Gonna find my win rate will just increase massively, I reckon. So you got to analyze it, and I've looked at my data sheet. I've got plenty of counter trend trades. Overall, they're very profitable, but something to do with me and the market and the live doesn't reflect the data sheet. And sometimes you need that data in the live to understand where you're going wrong. And you can't always look at your data sheet and go, but it's profitable. But I should be doing well, because that's not the live market. The live market's where you're making your real money. And if you're not doing well in a certain kind of trade, just don't trade that way. But we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, to finish the overall video, we're just going to go on to the monthly and the quarterly to see how these are likely to close coming into the end of the month of September. 3 monthly on DXY. we're finally looking like, to be honest, this low could get taken out under 99. We can see that that low there is potentially going to get tapped through. It's interesting. We're in a kind of period where we made these highs back in the end of 2022 and we're like nowhere near. We tried to respect this area to come up of a retest, failed to take out the high. We're now starting to break the area that we've been consolidating in for a while. It's going to be a different market potentially if we can get down past this area. Monthly time frame, I discussed at the start of the month and was so confident on this area getting respected, and we haven't. We've got 1 day. Is it really going to do all that in Monday? Probably not convinced. We could still respect 100, and there's a potential that we're going to see that area respected for next month as well. I think at this stage you're looking at potential upside if we can get a close above this area. At that point, I would be confident. At this stage, the month's coming to an end and I'm a bit tired of the idea that I've been talking about for weeks and weeks and it's just not really happening. Maybe it's time to call it quits. Wait for the next month. EU on the quarterly kind of sums up everything about the quarter, is that this candle is just huge. It's massively bullish. It's engulfing all of the last year and a half. Yep, we're still within this fair value gap. We haven't taken out the previous yearly high yet, but just look at my trades here. July, August, September, loss. You know, they're coming from sells. All of my trades here have been sells, apart from 2. And I've not, it sums it up. Why have I not took a buy win on EU or GU in the quarter? How have I not capitalised on taking a buy? These are just the questions I have, and it will make me a better trader, but how? How is that a thing? I don't even know how I've made profit, because I have made a couple of our profit this quarter. How have I done that? Not taking one buy win. If anything, that makes me a great trader, but wow, it's food for thought. It's food for thought. Really don't know how that's happened. What am I not aligning to in the market, maybe? Crazy, man. If we go on to GU, actually, let's go on the monthly for EU first. One thing we were discussing at the start of the month was kind of this area. We're breaking it. We're breaking this fair value gap that's been respected 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times since April 23. We're at new highs nearly now for EU. As for GU, solid quarter, what can I say? About to come into this kind of order block here. Not quite got into it yet. Where we're not having issues now after we struggled here last year. We're at highs for the literally, it's at the biggest highs it's had in the last 18 months after we made it in July, maybe 15 months maybe. Monthly just going bullish. Haven't got any reason to believe it's going to stop at this stage. Why is that? Because you're about to clear this. We had a problem with it last month. Failed to break. At this stage now, you're just looking like you're going to continue bullish. So it's a very different market condition to maybe how it was last year, where we had a lot more consolidation, pullbacks. It's just been very bullish. EU, again, monthly, very bullish. Still within the range high from last year. That's maybe where it's been difficult to capitalise, when I do prefer rangy markets. But there you go, guys. There's the lessons. Not going to bore you anymore. Hope you enjoyed that one. And let's go again into next month. I think the main thing is just to enjoy trading and understand it's not going to happen overnight, and the monthly reviews and stuff, you should be able to make improvements, go into next month with maybe a new funded account, maybe hopefully I've passed a few. But don't put any pressure to do well, just try and get better every day. And if you can do that, you'll end up doing well. Let's hope we can finish this year and let's get another funded account. More than likely it'll be 2 at once. But if I can be 300k funded after nearly losing my full allocation with FTMO, Alpha Capital Group, then we'll be on to a winner. And we'll do well next year. And this is what I can't wait for. It's all well and good me doing these videos when I'm struggling, and it's a bit more humiliating to do these. When I'm actually making 5, 10, 15k payouts, we're going to have a good time. And that's what it's all about, to go back through these videos and see, he was doing this last year, now he's doing this. I want to be inspiring. and I'm sure I'm doing that to some degree. But let's go into next month. I'll see you guys there. Take care. Cheers.